When it comes to Gold D. Roger, people often know him by the title of the Pirate King. He was always a terror to the ships on the sea, amassing an unimaginable wealth throughout his career. Today, he was brought to the execution platform before the eyes of millions. Roger revealed that his treasure was hidden in the heart of the ocean. His words of defiance inspired a new generation of pirates, and the beginning of One Piece was set in motion. Luffy, the main character, always dreamed of becoming a pirate from a young age. As a teenager, he refused to give up on that dream. During a sea voyage, his damaged ship started sinking, and he found refuge in a wine barrel. The barrel drifted to a place where a fierce battle was happening between the crews of two large ships. Evita, a notorious wanted pirate captain, led her crew in attacking cargo ships. Hearing rumors of a pirate hunter in hiding, she became intrigued. When Evita's crew spotted Luffy's barrel, they considered it a valuable prize and brought it onto their ship. Hungry in the middle of the night, Luffy climbed out of the barrel. His sudden appearance startled the cabin boy, Koby. Luffy shared with Koby his dream of becoming the Pirate King. According to Koby, Evita was really cruel. Koby tried to help Luffy escape on a rescue ship, but Evita's crew spotted them. Evita, feeling betrayed, ordered her crew to capture them. During the chaos, a pirate shot at Luffy, but the bullet bounced off his rubbery body, revealing his unique power. This left Evita realizing why Luffy had the confidence to declare himself as the future Pirate King. Evita, furious about her ship being burned, directed her anger at Koby. Luffy intervened to protect his friend, defeating Evita with a single punch. From then on, Luffy and Koby teamed up and set sail together. During their voyage, Luffy shared his life story with Koby. Young Luffy, in his mischievous days, ate a devil fruit that turned him into a rubbery person. In another encounter, the Pirate Hunter Association invited Zoro to join, but he refused. When persuasion failed, they fought, and it was clear that Mr. 7 was no match for Zoro. Their biggest mistake was underestimating Zoro's abilities and not sending Mr. 1, resulting in the loss of Mr. 7. In another location at sea, Nami pretended to be vulnerable, tricking a group of pirates who underestimated her. She outsmarted them by luring them onto her ship and then quickly switching vessels, leaving them stranded. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, Luffy and Koby watched as Zoro stood up for a young girl and fought Captain Morgan's son. Zoro's sense of justice and impressive fighting skills left a strong impression on Koby and Luffy. Nami stole Navy clothes during the chaos. The next day, Luffy planned to steal a map to the Grand Line from the Navy base. Luffy got lost and ended up at Morgan's prison where Zoro was held. Admiring Zoro, Luffy decided to rescue him. Meanwhile, Nami infiltrated the Navy library for the map and dealt with two guards discreetly. Luffy also aimed to steal the map and, coincidentally, encountered Nami in the library. Luffy invited Nami to join him, and on their way, they crossed paths with Morgan. Luffy's quick thinking saved them by telling a few clever lies to Morgan. The orange-haired girl with a unique talent for theft quickly managed to steal the key from Morgan. Using it, they unlocked his private room and discovered a hidden treasure beneath his work desk. Luffy used his strength to lift the safe containing Morgan's loot. When Morgan returned, both the safe and they themselves fell from a high balcony. Fortunately, they landed safely but were then faced with a crowd of Navy personnel. After Zoro dealt with Morgan's son and his peculiar hairstyle, he joined them. The three of them had to confront Morgan's furious wrath. Morgan was a formidable opponent, almost like a raging bull. Every swing he made carried double the deadly force, making it clear that they faced a formidable adversary. Zoro was forced to use his most powerful technique, wielding 3 swords, one in his mouth and the other 2 in his hands. Luffy and Zoro coordinated their sword strikes, overwhelming Morgan to the point of dizziness. Morgan was flung far away, hundreds of meters, and Zoro hefted the safe onto his shoulder. The three of them casually left the Navy base behind, walking away from the chaotic battlefield. They were ready to board their ship and depart when Morgan's son approached, wanting to arrest them. However, he was suddenly punched by Koby. Koby decided to stay and pursue his dream of becoming a Navy officer, and Luffy respected his choice. Afterward, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami set sail, leaving Koby behind. The information Luffy stole the map hit the headline news. The clown pirate Buggy, swearing to track Luffy down at all costs. Nami managed to open the safe's combination lock, revealing the map to the Grand Line. Everyone began planning their journey to this great sea. Suddenly, a massive red fireworks display lit up the sky, and the smoke disoriented them. Just before losing consciousness, Luffy ingeniously swallowed the map to keep it safe. When the three of them woke up, they found themselves in the hands of the clown pirate, Buggy. All their weapons were confiscated, and Buggy intended to torture them mentally before killing them. Zoro wanted a fair fight, but this was Buggy's turf, and he set the rules. Nami, being cunning, considered betraying Luffy to escape, but traitors usually face swift consequences, and she was captured again before getting far. Buggy separated Zoro and Nami and kept Luffy to entertain him. Buggy knew that Luffy highly valued his straw hat, so he snatched it from him. Luffy tried to endure, but when witnessing Buggy unjustly killing an innocent person was too much. Luffy unleashed his strength, broke free from his restraints, and punched Buggy, sending his head flying several meters. However, Buggy had consumed a devil fruit that allowed him to separate and control his body parts remotely. He used this ability to throw a sleeping gas bomb, knocking Luffy out. In another development, Koby successfully became a Navy officer, and Vice Admiral Garp personally visited the crime scene. Morgan, to avoid responsibility, shifted all the blame onto Luffy's group. Koby was summoned to meet Vice Admiral Garp, who questioned him directly. Due to his extreme fear, Koby spilled everything he knew about Luffy. Back on their side, Nami was imprisoned in an iron cage, while Zoro was tied to a post for execution. They heard approaching footsteps and realized someone was coming. Kabeji arrived, wasting no time and immediately delivering a powerful punch to Zoro. According to Kabeji, Zoro had killed his younger brother, so today he came for revenge. Kabeji spun Zoro around like a top, intending to torture him mentally and kill him slowly. The anticipation of a slow and painful death is always the most agonizing. Kabeji was so focused on Zoro that he forgot about Nami. She had managed to unlock herself and quietly approached him, swiftly incapacitating him. They gathered their belongings and prepared to rescue Luffy. On the other scene, Luffy lay unconscious in a dream. He was transported back to his childhood when Shanks protected him from danger. Shanks, in his cool and fearsome demeanor, never hesitated to confront the bandits to protect Luffy. Shanks was never alone. He always had his comrades by his side. Together, they scared away anyone who dared to oppose them. It was the first time Luffy saw Shanks in such a formidable light. Back in reality, Luffy woke up submerged in a tank of continuously rising water. The water level threatened to engulf him completely, and it weakened his strength due to the seawater's sealing properties. Luffy was powerless, with no hope of escape. Buggy offered to spare him if Luffy surrendered the enormous treasure, but Luffy insisted that Zoro and Nami would come to rescue him. Despite Buggy's attempts to persuade and threaten him, Luffy remained stubborn. In a fit of anger, Buggy opened a valve, causing the water level to rise even higher, pressing Luffy closer to drowning. Luffy remembered his childhood, where Shanks always came to his rescue in times of danger. But now, Shanks was nowhere to be found, and Luffy could only watch helplessly as Buggy destroyed Shanks' treasured straw hat, the last memento he had of his mentor. Luffy's two rescuers arrived just in time, living up to his expectations. Nami threw her staff into the tank, creating a small hole in the tough glass that couldn't withstand the water pressure, causing it to shatter. Luffy was freed, regurgitating a torrent of water along with the valuable map. Buggy, more interested in the map than Luffy, moved closer to retrieve it. Before Buggy could fully savor his moment, Zoro used his sword to dismember him into multiple pieces, but Buggy's devil fruit powers allowed him to reassemble himself. Nami and Zoro were exhausted from being pursued by Buggy's henchmen. Seeing his friends in danger, Luffy took action. He separated Buggy's body parts and stored them in separate chests, leaving only his head and 2 hands and feet. Luffy knew it was time to strike. He used his Gomu Gomu powers to launch Buggy into the sky like a rocket. After the ordeal, they decided to form a crew. Together, they rescued the captive audience held by Buggy, proving that not all pirates are villains. Luffy had taken the second step in his journey to become the Pirate King, with the precious map in hand and 2 passionate crewmates by his side. Luffy never forgot what Shanks had taught him, but Shanks might have forgotten to teach Luffy a lesson in caution. Luffy entrusted the precious map to Nami. But she secretly communicated with someone, intending to hand the map over to them. The crew encountered some trouble with their ship, with leaks causing water to flood the hull. Nami's homemade phone was also damaged by water. All 3 had to leave the ship and head ashore. Zoro was disappointed because he knew that Buggy's bounty was quite valuable. Arlong was quicker than Zoro. He sent his crew to kidnap Buggy. Luffy spotted a warship with a sheep-shaped figurehead. Fortunately, Usopp led them to meet Miss Kaya, who owned not only a ship but also a vast fortune. Kaya's unwavering trust in her butler led to her being poisoned by him and his accomplices. For 3 years, she had been suffering from illnesses caused by the poisonous tea and porridge they had been feeding her daily, slowly deteriorating her health. Afraid of being discovered, the old butler always found excuses to prevent Usopp from interacting with Kaya. Today was Kaya's birthday, also the day she officially came of age to inherit her family's wealth. Everyone dressed up beautifully for the party, and Kaya couldn't help but be enchanted by Luffy's voracious appetite, having grown tired of her own meals. Luffy wanted to negotiate with Kaya to buy her ship, but the butler intervened. Mary, the financial manager, wanted to have a private meeting with Kaya to make a financial report, but the butler prevented it. At night, the 3 members of Luffy's group couldn't sleep due to their individual concerns. Luffy went in search of food, Zoro looked for something to drink, and Nami, being crafty by nature, sneaked out to steal valuable items from Kaya's house. Nami entered Kaya's room by mistake and, after some conversation with her, had an epiphany. She returned the stolen items to their original places. Usopp, a skilled marksman, declined Luffy's invitation to join his crew because he didn't want to leave Kaya. Usopp arrived at the booze mill, while Luffy, overcome by hunger, ate the poisoned porridge that the butler had prepared for Kaya. Usopp inadvertently discovered Mary's body, and the butler, realizing that they knew his evil deeds, had no intention of letting them go. Zoro recognized the butler as a wanted criminal, Kuro, who had the unique ability to vanish and reappear. However, Zoro couldn't keep up with him and was ambushed by Kuro's henchwoman with green hair, causing him to lose consciousness. Alone and outnumbered, Usopp fled. Kuro's henchman captured Zoro and tossed Mary's corpse down a well, leaving Zoro to fend for himself. Meanwhile, Garp, a Marine Vice Admiral, was determined to find Luffy and his crew to recover the stolen map. Garp saw potential in Koby and began mentoring him in various valuable skills. Usopp tried to warn everyone about Kuro's arrival, but no one believed him. They supposed that Usopp was just telling lies. Koby, leading the Marines, unintentionally stumbled upon Usopp. However, the son of Captain Morgan didn't buy into it. He believed that Kuro had been killed by his father 3 years ago, so there was no way his ghost could appear in broad daylight. Upon hearing Usopp's claim that Luffy was still around, Koby immediately led his men to follow him. Down below the well, Zoro had regained consciousness and was trying to find a way to climb back. Zoro remembered his childhood training in martial arts, which was more challenging than climbing this steep wall 100 times over. He always strived to perfect himself to be able to defeat Kuina, even though he consistently lost to her. Despite these defeats, Zoro never gave up on his goal. In a real sword fight, Zoro gave his all, but Kuina easily dodged his attacks. They clashed repeatedly, but Zoro was the one running out of stamina while Kuina remained swift and agile. However, it was in one of these duels that Zoro, in a desperate effort, swung his sword towards Kuina, but she managed to evade it. Sadly, the training took a tragic turn as Kuina fell and lost her life. In her memory, Zoro requested his sensei to use the sword she left behind. He vowed to become the greatest swordsman and fulfill the promise they made to each other. Now, Zoro was facing the challenge of climbing out of the deep well. He remembered the difficult training from his past and used that determination to make his way up. Meanwhile, Nami found Luffy unconscious in the kitchen of Kaya's mansion. Uncertain about what to do, she hid in a wardrobe, observing what was happening. The butler and his 2 henchmen discovered that Luffy had eaten all of Kaya's poisoned food. Believing that Luffy would die soon, they decided to throw him down the well alongside Zoro. However, Koby, who had followed the Marines, overheard the commotion. Kuro, switching from white to black, claimed that Usopp was a delusional liar, and none of his words could be trusted. When Koby asked about Luffy, Kuro ordered his crew to carry Luffy over to him. Nami witnessed everything, and she took advantage of a moment when the henchwoman was distracted to strike her from behind. Koby heard the sound and offered help, but Kuro dismissed it, lying that it was just the sound of mice. He had a unique body that wasn't affected by the poison. The amount of food containing the toxin was expelled from his body through his mouth. It's a pity for Morgan's son when he had to endure the incomplete digestive process. Luffy wanted to return to rescue Koza. Koby was in a difficult situation, torn between close comrades and Vice Admiral Garp's orders. Morgan's son, cunning as he was, used his gun to threaten. Just in time, Zoro arrived at the scene. Koby could only watch in despair as Zoro and Luffy headed towards Koza's house. Usopp stealthily made his way to Koza's room. He shared the whole story with her, but his enthusiasm scared Koza instead. She not only didn't believe him, but also slapped Usopp. Usopp, in anger, considered leaving, but he realized that Koza was the only person who had been kind to him, so he decided to stay and protect her. On the other side, time struck midnight. Kuro and his 2 henchmen couldn't wait any longer. They wanted to kill Koza and take over her family's wealth. They had sealed off all exits and disabled the security system. Nami found her way to Koza's room and breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Usopp was safe. After a brief discussion, Koza decided to escape with them. They used an emergency exit, but Kuro sensed their footsteps and began searching for them. He knew they were heading towards the emergency exit. Luckily, all 3 of them reached the safety of Koza's parents' room. They together tried to turn the doorknob. Kuro followed closely behind. Afterward, they quickly found a hiding spot. Kuro went berserk, smashing things around, and they had to cover their mouths. Koza knew that hiding was just a temporary solution and signaled Nami with her eyes. Both girls rushed out of their hiding spots, wanting to surprise attack Kuro. However, underestimating their enemy, Kuro was too quick and they stood no chance. Usopp, seeing them in danger, tried to help but ended up in an even worse situation than them. Meanwhile, Zoro and Luffy arrived at Koza's house. Zoro used his bare hands to disable the security system, and they split up. Zoro took responsibility for dealing with Kuro's henchmen, while Luffy rushed upstairs to rescue Koza and the others. Zoro encountered 2 of Kuro's henchmen, dressed as bats and cats, who tried to gang up on him. Afterward, Zoro proudly wielded his swords, with one for the cat and one for the fat bat. Back upstairs, Luffy initially struggled against Kuro's incredible speed. Luffy realized that strength alone wasn't enough to win and that combining intelligence with power was essential. He closed his eyes and focused on listening to Kuro's footsteps, catching him off guard. Luffy punched Kuro hard, sending him crashing through a window. Downstairs, everyone was surprised by Luffy's abilities and praised him. When they went back to the house, they found Zoro sitting comfortably next to the tied-up cat and fat bat. The next day, to show their gratitude, Koza gifted them a boat as a commemorative gift. Usopp didn't want to leave Koza, but she encouraged him to pursue his dreams while promising to wait for him to return and hear about his adventures. As their boat set sail, it wasn't long before they were attacked by Vice Admiral Garp's ship. Usopp was assigned the task of firing a cannon, but, due to his fear, he accidentally dropped all the ammunition. Knowing that Garp wanted to capture them alive, Luffy used his gum-gum abilities to inflate himself like a giant rubber ball, causing the cannonball to bounce back and hit their own ship's mast, which fell down. Luckily, Koby managed to save Morgan's son, but their ship's railing was damaged in the process. With no sail, Garp could only watch them escape. The attack had damaged the ship's railing. The thick fog obscured their vision, making it impossible to determine the right direction. Luffy's acute sense of smell came in handy once again as he sniffed the scent of food and guided everyone in steering the ship in the right direction. They successfully reached the Baratai, a luxurious restaurant on the sea. Sanji, the head chef, served them delicious food. However, when it came time to pay the bill, Luffy realized he didn't have any money. Zeff, the owner of this restaurant, then put Luffy to work as a dishwashing debt slave. During this time Luffy learned about Sanji's dream of reaching the All Blue, a legendary sea where all the best fish can be found. Luffy, in his usual fashion, tried to recruit Sanji to his crew, but Sanji declined. Meanwhile, Garp refused to provide assistance, wanting them to overcome the consequences of their actions on their own. Instead, he called on the renowned swordsman Mihawk, who was busy dealing with Don Krieg to capture Luffy. Koby, who was outside, overheard Garp's plan to hire Mihawk to capture Luffy. Koby felt disappointed when he realized the hidden rules of the Navy, where they sometimes cooperated with notorious pirate crews like the Seven Warlords of the Sea. Koby began to question the Navy's supposed righteousness. While Luffy was washing dishes, the rest of the crew relaxed. Nami and Zoro played a game to guess each other's thoughts, with the loser having to take a shot of sake as a penalty. Usopp, feeling lonely, sought solace in alcohol. Mihawk arrived at the scene and began searching for Luffy, while Zoro had always harbored the dream of defeating Mihawk. This encounter presented an opportunity for Zoro to achieve his goal. Mihawk, seeing Zoro's enthusiasm, agreed to a duel scheduled for dawn the next day. Nami expressed concern for Zoro, knowing that Mihawk was an incredibly formidable opponent. However, Zoro was ready to fight for his ideals and the memory of Kuina, his childhood friend. Their first round of combat showed Mihawk easily parrying Zoro's attacks. Despite being pierced by Mihawk's sword, Zoro remained resolute in his determination. Mihawk acknowledged Zoro's unwavering spirit and granted him the honor of being slain by his sword, Yoru. However, Zoro's swords were shattered in the process, and he was left with a shallow wound on his chest. Mihawk spared Luffy and promised Zoro another battle when he became stronger. The rest of the group rushed to Zoro's side. He lost too many blood. Luffy returned to the restaurant to seek their assistance in finding a doctor to save Zoro. When Luffy returned with the two cooks, everyone was surprised. Zeff took out a bottle of strong alcohol to disinfect Zoro's wound and used fishing line to stitch it up. Then, he applied salmon to the wound, a traditional method used by sailors. Afterward, Sanji prepared various dishes for everyone using the salmon. 9 years ago, Sanji worked as an apprentice cook on a ship. One day, their ship was attacked by pirates and ultimately destroyed, leaving only him and Zeff stranded on an island. They initially had enough food to survive, but as days went by, their supplies dwindled. On day 25, Sanji spotted a passing ship at night but couldn't signal for help due to the roaring waves and their damaged engine. Time passed, and by day 70, despair set in. Sanji, driven by desperation, approached Zeff with a knife, intending to steal the remaining food. However, he discovered that Zeff had sacrificed his own leg to feed Sanji and save him from starvation. This act of selflessness left a profound impact on Sanji, and it was why he always followed Zeff's instructions without question, holding deep respect for him. The next day, Arlong and his fishmen pirates arrived at the restaurant and threatened to destroy it if they didn't get what they wanted. Nami witnessed everything and rushed to inform Luffy that the fishmen pirates were after him. Luffy didn't want innocent people to be affected because of him, so he went to meet Arlong. Before leaving, he instructed Nami to take good care of the map. Unbeknownst to them, Buggy's spy provided information about their whereabouts to Arlong. Arlong captured Luffy and demanded the map. When he realized that Luffy didn't know anything about it, Arlong mercilessly attacked him. Luffy's techniques were no match for Arlong's strength, and he was thrown outside like a piece of trash. Arlong was about to bite Luffy when Nami intervened, revealing that they were actually a team. Arlong, the mysterious figure Nami often contacted, was forced to leave when Nami used the map to threaten him. He didn't kill Luffy to avoid dirtying his hands, and instead threw him into the sea. If it weren't for Sanji's timely intervention, Luffy might have died at the bottom of the cold sea. Luffy was deeply affected by Nami's betrayal and was venting his frustration beside Zoro's sickbed. Zoro, after waking up, swore to become Luffy's lifelong comrade. Inside the restaurant, Zeph, though appearing gruff, cared deeply for Sanji. He didn't want Sanji to waste his life and wanted him to join Luffy's crew. The next day, everyone set out to rescue Nami, and Sanji joined them. At the port, Zeph limped over to bid farewell to Sanji, and the emotional parting between the two was heartfelt. Although they didn't know the exact location of Arlong's lair, Luffy remained optimistic, as he held Buggy's head, which was his trump card. On another front, Mihawk went in search of Vice Admiral Garp and informed him that he had let Luffy go. He also mentioned that Luffy might find One Piece. Vice Admiral Garp was furious, as he had trained Luffy to become a marine, but the stubborn boy was determined to become a pirate. This was the first time Koby had seen Garp so angry. Afterward, Garp gathered his troops and wanted to take strong action against his own grandson's Straw Hat Pirates. Buggy's head, serving as a makeshift map and music player, lightened the mood during their journey. Nami, on the other hand, was in a state of shock and distraction upon returning to the crew. When she was younger, Nami and her adoptive sister, Noriko, were found during a battle against pirates. Growing up in poverty, Nami developed a bad habit of stealing to make ends meet. Her adoptive mother was displeased and brought her to Back Denzo to return a stolen book. Later, Arlong and his crew arrived, wreaking havoc in their village. They terrorized the villagers, who lived in fear. Only Denzo attempted to stand up to them, but couldn't do much on his own. Arlong summoned Nami to meet with him privately and demanded that she hand over the map. He had ambitions of taking control of the ocean and making his fishmen race the rulers of the world. Afterward, Nami returned to her village and was treated with disdain, even being spat on by Noriko because she had agreed to work as Arlong's subordinate. Nami's role was to assist him in extracting tribute from the villagers, often involving extorting money from them. Nami initially refused to join them, but Luffy never gave up. He even went to the Tangerine Garden to find Noriko and asked her about her sister. Initially wary, Noriko's attitude changed when she heard Sanji mention good food. After a satisfying meal, Noriko shared the story of her and her sister. After Arlong's arrival in the village, he and his crew went house by house collecting tributes. Nami's mother had hidden her family in the basement and paid the tribute by herself, believing they would be safe. Everyone thought that everything would go smoothly and unnoticed if not for the 3 dishes of food left on the table, which acted as a telltale sign. It turned out that the money Nami's mother had earned was all taken as tribute for Arlong and his crew. Nami came to realize that she had misunderstood her mother's intentions. Both sisters witnessed their mother's murder by Arlong, and this heart-wrenching story deeply moved everyone. After Luffy's group left, Vice Admiral Garp visited the restaurant and inquired about Luffy. Jeff pretended not to know him. Zeph invited Vice Admiral Garp to enjoy a free meal, which he personally prepared, even opening an expensive bottle of wine to show his hospitality. Zeph tried to advise Garp, but the Vice Admiral remained stubborn and insisted he was doing the right thing. Nami handed over the money she had collected from Kokoyashi village to Arlong, then the Marines, led by Nezumi, arrived to collect their protection fee. Arlong had promised to sell the freedom of the village for 100 million berries, with Nami agreeing to join his crew. She had spent years stealing to gather that amount and She buried the stolen money near her mother's grave. While digging, Noriko caught her in the act. After realizing that she had misunderstood her sister all these years, Noriko felt deep regret. However, they didn't have time to reconcile as Nezumi arrived with the Marines. Nami recognized that she had been deceived by Arlong and, despite her sister's pleas, she rushed out during the night, determined to confront Arlong. She knew that she couldn't take on Arlong alone, so she requested Luffy's assistance. On the other side, Arlong was commanding his fishmen to attack Kokoyashi village. Nezumi went to meet Vice Admiral Garp to accuse Luffy's group of taking bribes from Arlong's crew, laying all the blame on them. Everyone engaged in a fierce battle against the fishmen. Usopp used his homemade smoke bombs to disorient the enemy forces. Seizing the opportunity, his comrades joined the fray. Sanji demonstrated his formidable martial arts skills, defeating multiple fishmen. Usopp targeted one fishman with a smoke bomb, causing it to go berserk and chase him. The fishman inadvertently drank a self-made acid concoction, then spat it towards Usopp like a cannonball. Usopp narrowly avoided it by hiding behind a tree. Usopp, ever resourceful, covered himself with a mixture of sauces, fooling the fishman into thinking. The fishman, believing Usopp was already defeated, left him alone. Usopp then prepared a level 7 spicy bomb and roasted the fishman. Zoro and Sanji formed a formidable duo, causing the young fishmen to panic and flee into the water. They attempted to sneakily bite their opponents. Buggy's detached head sensed that someone was nearby and pleaded with everyone to release him, promising to help them in return. However, when he regained control of his body, he broke his promise and fled. As for the shark with two tails, it was furious because Zoro and Sanji had killed many of its brethren. It declared that they would regret their actions, then swiftly attacked Sanji. Zoro immediately intervened to assist Sanji, and the shark couldn't keep up with their combined assault. Meanwhile, Luffy and Nami were on a mission to find the map. They confronted Arlong, who offered to spare Nami if she chose to stand by his side. Nami, filled with regret for her past actions, lamented her foolishness in aligning herself with the wicked Arlong, who had used her as a tool. This enraged Luffy, who yelled at Arlong, calling him despicable. Arlong raised his massive 3-meter-long sword towards Luffy's neck. Luffy, with his bleeding hand breaking the sword into tatters, refused to allow anyone to harm his friends. He told Nami to leave and assured her that he would handle the situation himself. Luffy unleashed a powerful pistol punch, shattering Arlong's teeth and leaving him without a word of farewell. However, Arlong's sharp teeth quickly regrew, which surprised Luffy greatly. Arlong retaliated with continuous attacks, and Luffy realized that he couldn't waste his strength on futile attempts to hurt the shark fishman. Punching the tough hide of this fishman only hurt Luffy's hand. Luffy understood that Arlong was driven by his love for money and decided to change his tactics by targeting Arlong's park. This infuriated Arlong even more, and he wanted to bite into Luffy to release his anger. Meanwhile, Usopp returned to find Zoro and Sanji had finished dealing with their respective opponents. Nami also emerged from the house, grateful for their help. Luffy countered Arlong's furious charge with a powerful finishing move known as the Gomu Gomu no Axe. This attack caused the entire park to crumble before the astonished onlookers. They shouted in fear and concern for Luffy. Fortunately, he didn't disappoint them. Luffy's arm emerged from the rubble, and he stood tall, resembling a triumphant god. In the evening, the village organized a celebratory feast. Sanji personally took charge of the kitchen and served everyone a delicious meal. Usopp, true to his profession, provided live commentary on the day's battle for everyone to hear. While they were enjoying themselves, the Marines, led by Vice Admiral Garp, arrived and ordered Koby and the others to capture Luffy's group. For the first time, Koby dared to defy the orders. Despite threats of severe punishment, including Garp's intervention, Morgan's son, also known as Garp, stood up alongside Koby. Garp, with a faint smile, knew he couldn't rely on them. He faced them both, and after a brief challenge, offered them a demonstration of his power. Luffy threw a punch towards his grandfather, but Garp effortlessly evaded it, and with a gentle flick, sent Luffy flying. It was a clear display of the strength of an old but still formidable marine hero. Luffy clung to the walls of a nearby building and launched a rocket punch, but once again, Garp avoided it and catched Luffy, raising him in the air. Luffy still was confident of becoming the Pirate King. Garp suddenly saw a faint reflection of Gold Roger, the previous Pirate King. Garp smiled with a hint of helplessness at Luffy's stubbornness and affectionately told him to do as he pleased. He then ordered his marines to clean up the remnants of Arlong's crew. Nezumi, who wanted to voice his opinion, received a swift hit from Nami's stick. Garp placed his hand on Luffy's shoulder, bid him farewell, and departed. The next day, Nami visited her mother's grave. Finally, she had protected her village, and the two sisters resolved their misunderstandings. Nariko told Nami that no matter how far she goes, this place will always be her home, and whenever she's tired, Nariko's arms will be there to welcome her. Koby came to visit Luffy as a friend and showed him a wanted poster with Luffy's face on it. Luffy was ecstatic because his bounty was quite high, and he was proud to be recognized as a true pirate. However, while Luffy was optimistic, the others were extremely worried. This wanted poster was like a death sentence, attracting unwanted attention and threats from many. Luffy's mother looked at the wanted poster of her son with a gentle smile, knowing that their plan was starting to succeed. Zeph, too, carefully hung the wanted poster in the most prominent place. Mihawk delivered the wanted poster to Shanks, and upon learning of Luffy's success, Shanks and everyone were proud of him. On the other side, Nami brought her hometown's orange tree on the ship. It not only helped her forget the homesickness, but also provided food when they were hungry. Everyone had a special gift for Luffy, a ship's figurehead in the shape of a giant lion's head. They all placed their feet on wine barrels and made a solemn vow for their life stream.
If you like this video, please subscribe for more content in the future. Hit the like button and don't forget to leave your opinion in the comment section.